the reason I say are they in trouble is this. Look, I understand that when you are the defending champion, everyone is going to come at you. And I understand that Steve Kerr is now trying to, with so much depth now, trying to create rotations and get some of these figure out how to utilize these young guys. And the hope was that they would win while doing this, and they are not. When I watched them the other night against Sacramento, knowing that they were coming off that road trip where they were winless, and then knowing that they had finally had some time to practice and whatnot, I felt that they would come out strong, and they did. The problem is they couldn't sustain it. And so I'm really trying to figure out where, and Natalie can speak to it, where Steve Kerr is going with some of these rotations. You know, you don't play James Wiseman at all. At least I don't remember seeing him come off the bench in that Sacramento game. And he is a guy who is going to have to produce for you later in the year, or once you get to the playoffs, for you to get to where you want to go, I believe. It's nice to see he finally put Jonathan Kuminga back on the court, because that is a young guy who belongs in the flow, and to get minutes and learn. So when I say is there reason for concern or is there trouble, it's more of the stuff that I'm seeing. The big issue I have with them is just defensively. They are not able to close out clubs or quarters at times like they have done in the past. And that's my biggest concern, Natalie.
Yeah. I don't think Wiseman is actually going to be a player that's going to be able to help the Warriors. And I think that's the glaring issue. It's still very early in his career, and I can't say that he's not going to improve as a player, but the skill set and what he brings to this team doesn't really fit with the Warriors. And so part of the reason you have him playing for a while and not Jonathan Kuminga is because there's some politics going on, right? Like ownership doesn't want to look wrong. There was a lot of noise around whether they drafted the wrong pick when they went with James Wiseman. So there's this push to like put him out there and kind of like center him. And it was happening at the events of Jonathan Kuminga because the two of them operate in the same space on the court, right? And so that's part of the problem. And then, you know, it's not being talked about, but you had Dante who went down, and he was kind of the player they brought in that would be like the GP2 replacement, not like one-to-one, but he's a good defensive player, brought you some more on the offensive end, and you lost him very early in the season. So you're rolling out these all bench lineups. You're asking Jordan Poole to carry those lineups and to now become more of a primary playmaker, secondary scorer, and that's not his natural fit. That's not what he's comfortable with. So you see Jordan struggling. He's not able to carry that second unit, and the bench can't score, right? So that's part of like what's going on there. And so the starters still have the best net rating in the league by a large margin, but they do need their bench to be able to come in and play. The defense is a real thing. So I'm not like dismissing that at all, but he's going to have to shorten the rotation. They're probably going to have to play smaller than they'd like, which is not something that they wanted to do. But I don't think it's going to work with James Wiseman, and they're going to have to figure that out soon.
See, I think it has to work with him. And the other thing, I'll say this so real quick, Michael, is I don't think he can shorten the rotation because they have run a lot of tread off those tires with those players because of all the success that they have had. When you start adding up all those playoff games, it's almost like they're playing another season more than other teams if you go back over the last 5-6 years, whatever. So I don't think Steve can give those guys, you know, Steph, and we know Clay, you know, with the injuries that he had. And even if you watch Draymond now, he's not necessarily the same guy. I don't think he can shorten the rotation because I don't think those guys will last until later in the year.
He doesn't have to extend their minutes, but he also doesn't have to go 11 guys deep. You know, you give Moody more minutes, who's shown some promise. Right. You play Jonathan Kuminga more. You have more consistency with those guys instead of kind of yo-yoing around the young guys. Hopefully Dante comes back soon, and maybe you're just going 9 deep, 10 deep instead of 11 deep, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like it's not working. We've seen multiple combinations with Wiseman, and he's the issue. It's him. It's not anybody else.
Don't say that. Yeah. Don't say that.
That. Hey, you know what? I'm sensing a generational issue on the Warriors. Old guys versus young guys. Chaos in the locker room. That's what's happening. But you know what? I'll take any day. If the Warriors want to move on from Jonathan Wiseman, I'd take him on my team, and Kuminga. James Wiseman, I'm sorry, James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga, I'd take either one of them. Either one of them. Give those guys 30 minutes somewhere, and you'd see some big-time results. But I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you guys this.
Wiseman's going to be a star, I believe.
I think Kuminga is going to be
no question.
I love Kuminga.
No question.
I love him.
Both of them. Both of them.
So I want to ask you guys, I look at some of the surprise teams in the league. The Jazz are clearly one. I thought the Jazz would be terrible. They have the opposite record of what I thought they'd have. The Blazers are also surprising. Natalie, are you surprised by the Bucks? Not their talent. Obviously, they've got Giannis, and he's tremendous. But they're not doing that, hey, we're going to do a nice little, we're going to pace ourselves, and we will crescendo right when the playoffs begin. They have gotten off to a torrid start. Are you surprised that they've started the way they have?
No, I mean, that team is like a machine at this point, like very Spurs-like, right? I mean, they play a certain way. They've been playing together now for a couple of years, few years with their key pieces. So they have the continuity. So even though, Middleton is out, they can still play together. So, and then you have Giannis, right? And he's arguably for some the best player in the league. So,
I was waiting. So wait a minute.
What is it, Michael?
Okay. For some. Arguably.
We're talking about the Bucks. We're not talking about who I think is the best player.
The best player in the league. I got it.
Yes, for some. But I mean, look, it's a very, I'm not going to be mad at anyone who thinks he is. And so their start doesn't surprise me at all. I think he's going to be out for tonight's game. So they might get their first loss, but they may still win. That's how much of a machine they are, right? And so the Bucks are a very good team. And I think right now, don't kill me, Michael, but you may have to consider them the best team in the East. I do think them and the Celtics are a tier above everyone else. And I think those are your top two teams in the East.
Michael, you know this. I talk a lot about culture. And when your best player is your hardest worker, you've got the right culture. He sets the standard for everyone. And Giannis is that type that regardless of how good his numbers are or what he puts up, he always feels he can do better. And I love that about him in terms of what that does for the other guys on the team, that they can never relax, So I'm with Natalie on this. I think that there is a culture there where there's a certain expectation about how you're going to perform and how you're going to play. And they're doing it. And they're not even fully healthy right now. So yeah. I agree. I don't see anyone right now beating the Bucks coming out of the East.
I want you both to give me a number. Give me your pissed off level from 1 to 10. If you were in that situation, what was the game? And Natalie, you remember this. I think it was a game over the weekend. The Warriors didn't play Steph, Clay, Draymond. And then Steve Kerr came out afterward and said, fans would be wise to check out the back-to-backs or look at the older teams and to see that, maybe you shouldn't buy tickets because I'm like, man, I ain't doing. It's like that Steve Harvey bit when he said, put your hands up, turn around and be like, look, man, I don't want to help out. I came to the concert. I just want to sit and be entertained. Right. Don't ask me to do all this work and show my work. Is this math class? Give me your pissed off level if you were at that game and you didn't see any of those guys play. 1 to 10.
Oh my gosh, 10. I would have been tight, but as
12.
An avid basketball fan.
I would have been 12.
Because I follow the league so closely, I do avoid back-to-backs, but fans should not have to do that. They shouldn't.
Well, especially when that's only the one time that they will come. That was their, wasn't that their one trip there?
What is it, the Pelicans? Oh, maybe.
Come on. He's like, he's trying to say it in an intellectual way, too. Fans would be wise to. Hey, man. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.